Hi everyone, Phil from Tech for Techs here. Today we're going to be looking at this from AeroCool. It's the Aero 1 Eclipse case. It's got a recommended retail price of around about £62, which sounds like pretty good value considering it's got a glass side and 4 ARGB fans pre-installed. Okay, today we've got the Aero 1 Eclipse. It is a MIDI tower case with a front mesh panel. It's got 320mm fans already in there, which are all RGB, or should I say ARGB, which is addressable RGB. And apparently it comes with a controller as well. So you can change the lighting effects without the need of a motherboard, but you can also connect it up to the motherboard if you wish for more control. So let's have a look at the case first. Height-wise, it is quite a tall case. It's got sort of a moulded front on it. Yeah, this doesn't look too bad, to be honest. The front, again, it's got a moulded top. It seems the top is metal, the front is plastic, and you do have this sort of a mesh, looking like some sort of wrap or pattern on the actual plastic there, and then you've actually got that sort of a honeycomb effect on the mesh there. I don't see a dust filter from what I can see from the front. The top magnetic filter does come off. Just to give you a rough idea what the top looks like, which is there. I'll go into more depth about the control panel in a few minutes. And then you've actually got the side panel here. There is no screws on the glass itself, which, to be honest, I like because they usually end up being fiddly and you end up having one screw left in, which is putting all the weight on the glass, and you never know when it's going to cause damage. Instead, they're actually on the back, which is good. The back seems a little thin and tinny. It's sort of, I'm guessing, a punch-through metal, but it does the job. So that looks pretty good. Now, one thing what I noticed first of all was how, well, the actual size of it is quite tall, but it doesn't actually go far back at all, which is quite surprising. So it's quite compact on the inside. Through the window I can also see a magnetic strip of some kind. Not sure exactly what that is yet, but we'll have a closer look in a second. So let's take these sides off and have a look. But before that, let's take off this wrap, because I know some of you like this. There we go. First, so that's done. So let's take the side panel off and see what we've got. So it's 2 thumb screws. They're plastic / metal thumb screws, and it's just the 2 of them, and then it just slides off. Doesn't seem to be anything what's gripping it on too much at the bottom, so just watch it doesn't fall. So on the inside of the glass you do have sort of like a foam padding around the edge, which does actually help it seal against the side, which will stop air escaping, but also makes it a nice tight fit, so you don't get any rattling. And it does seem to have 2 little notches, is probably the best way of putting it, so it can actually catch onto the case. So just to show you, those notches connect up roughly there and there. But otherwise, it actually looks pretty good quality for the side panel. The other side panel, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty straightforward. Thumb screws again. The metal they use on this apparently is between 0.5mm and 0.7mm. And that side panel, yeah, there's not much on there, but it does also have 2 of those notches where it can grip in on the side, so you slide it off with ease, so it shouldn't just fall off in theory. So let's have a look what we've got on the inside. So yeah, we've got this filter, so I'm guessing, so the dust filter goes on the inside of the case there, which is a bit of a strange place to put it if you ask me. So let's move those cables. So that's where your dust filter goes. So it's a strange place to have it on the inside of the case, because that means if you want to clean your dust filter out, you've got to open the machine up. So you've got to open the machine to clean that out. So it means you've got to take the glass side off and everything to get to it. where a lot of cases are generally, they're on the front so you can just peel them off, or there's usually an easy way to slide them out, or you just pull the front off and so forth. But this, you have to take the side off to clean that panel. So it's as if they thought, oh, let's build the case, it looks good, and we'll go and stick a dust filter in there. Where shall we put it? Oh, we forgot all about putting one of those in. Let's just go and stick it on the inside. I'm not sure that'll affect the lighting effects though, because these fans, I've seen them before, the actual lights on the fans are sort of on the front and around the edge and not the back, so it probably won't affect the glow. Plus you have got that fan inside as well, which does have the RGB on as well as the ones on the front. So it's actually 4 RGB fans, not 3, which I mentioned before. Inside the case you do have a bag of bits, so that's got your manual in there, looks like some cable ties, screws and a few other bits like that. So they are there, we'll take a closer look at those in a few minutes. Let's have a look at this fan. So there's a nice good length on there, so it's got a special 6-pin connector for the fan, which I'm guessing that's what's going to be connecting up to their controller, which looks like maybe in that bag as well. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. I'm not a fan of these different non-standard connectors, because trying to get other fans or replacement fans sometimes can be a bit of a pain. You've got to get the same type and so forth, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. You can also see the cable in here. The cabling looks pretty standard. You've got your hard drive, power and so forth. You've got your HD audio as well. You've got USB 3. One thing is the sachet packet design on the HD audio. Unfortunately, not a big fan of that. They should cover this up with some sort of boot or something, with everything else being black inside. Last thing you want is that multicoloured cable. One thing you should be able to do with this case, apparently, is screw in, which is a little bit different than some, 2 fans onto here. So this is actually the shroud what goes over the power supply. They've made it a little bit deeper than normal, apparently. So you can screw in 2 fans there and have them pointing up directly at the graphics card to cool it down. I'm not sure if that would work in practice, but it's obviously something there. So if you do have a cool graphics card which doesn't get overly hot, maybe an option for you. On the back side of the case, you can see here the other cables coming from the front fans, which are all down here. So you've got 3 of them there. It's a pretty neat design. You've got a nice big cutout for the back of the motherboard, so you can easily fit water coolers or aftermarket coolers as you wish. It's got some nice cutout points on there. They're not rubberized or anything like that, so just bear that in mind. There's a couple of tie down options there, and there. Here you've got your hard drive bay. You can actually fit in a 3.5-inch drive in there, so standard hard drive, but you can actually fit another one on top of it if you wish. This bay does actually come out. You have to undo the screws which are on the bottom. We'll have a closer look at the bottom in a minute. So in total you can fit either 2 3.5-inch drives or 3 2.5-inch drives in there. So you can put the 3 solid state drives or traditional laptop style hard drives in there, or your 2 standard type hard drives, which is good. But it also gives you a bit of room up here for your cabling from your power supply, which is good. One thing I've noted regarding cabling, if we go back to the other side, is obviously you do have the holes here and here for cabling, so that's good for putting like your audio and your front panel cables through and stuff like that. It would have been nice if there was an option somewhere around here. I know it would interfere with the fan if you did place one there, to put your power for your graphics card, so the 6/8-pin power connector to go through, because otherwise you've got to go through this front area here and plug in there. So it would have been nice to go straight up, or you can go through obviously the sides here. Obviously up to you which way you want to do it. Some people find it neater going from around about that area and straight up. The case does support up to a 360mm radiator on the front. It is a little bit tight putting it on this side, so I'm guessing what you'd need to do is take the front off. So I'm guessing that just pulls off. Let's see. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you'd put Yeah, you would put your radiator in here, or at the back I suppose you could just, if it was a really slim one, and then put the fans on this side, so sort of the chassis would separate it. And that's another good thing about this case, why optimising the design, is having these fans actually externally on the chassis here, so they don't actually get in the way on the inside, which is good. So we can put a longer graphics card in there. You should be able to fit in a 30cm graphics card, which is pretty good. The top does support up to a 240mm radiator as well, which may be a better place putting it, in all honesty, but you have got the room there. And again, because it's sort of like that domed effect, it pushes the cooler out of the way from the rest of the components, so you've got plenty of room up there. They've actually thought about this case quite well in some of these aspects. They're using these domes. It's not just for looks, it's actually got a practical value to it. Now the bottom of the case, let's have a quick look at that. So as you can see here, again, the styling of the case doubles up as feet. It has got 4 rubber feet on there, and you can also remove that hard drive caddy there as well. And then you've got your ventilation for your power supply at the bottom. The front panel, as you see there, does have 2 USB 3 sockets on there. There's no USB 2 sockets. You've got your 2 audio, so you've got one for headphone and microphone rather than one combined one, which I prefer. It's got those LED lights there for obviously your hard drive and power. And it's got 2 buttons. One is your power button, and the other one on there is for the RGB or reset, depending on how you set it up. So if you're not bothered about the RGB lighting being used on there, you can wire up the front panel cable to your motherboard and use it as a reset switch. Okay, this is your RGB controller here. You've got these 6-pin connectors for your fans. So obviously 4 of those are going to be taken up by the case fans. So you've got the 3 on the front, 1 on the back. It also gives you room to add 2 more, but the problem is with these, it means you've got to get proper fans to fit it. So you can't use your standard, obviously 3-pin RGB connectors like you would. There is 2 options for those though if you wanted, so you could put in like a light strip or another fan, but if you wanted to add any more, you are limited to buying the proper AeroCool ones. The advantage about this controller is it does actually do the RGB, but not only just the RGB, it does control the fan speed, or at least the AeroCool fans. Anyway, it's all through one, so it saves you having 4 connectors going to your motherboard for RGB, and then another 4 cables going to your motherboard for fan power, or the PWM cables. It's powered through a SATA connection there. You've also got a 3-pin, or the other type of 3-pin ARGB cables there as well. So this is more like a 4-pin with one missing in the middle, I always call it, and then 1 cable to connect up to your fans on your motherboard. So that controls absolutely everything. You don't have to connect the RGB ones if your motherboard doesn't have them. You can just use the switch on the top of the case. Now, airflow. We've got some smoke here, so pretty simple. We put the smoke towards the machine and we'll see if it gets sucked in, and it is. So that basically means there's no obstructions on that machine on the front. It's basically sucking all the air in, which I'd expect it to, and then that's getting shoved right out of the back or up through the top. The cooling performance on this, I'd rate it with the best of them, in all honesty. It's all down to how much restriction there is on the front. If you've got a big glass panel on the front, which is blocking the air getting in, and just little gaps around the edge, it's not going to be as good. And this, well, it's as good as it's going to get, to be honest with you, for a case its size, unless you go for a huge, massive case, which has got fans what are double the size on it and so forth. That's pretty good. And bear in mind, these fans are only working on auto mode at the moment, so they are probably running at around about 40–50% of the capacity. Once they kick into 100%, they'd suck even more air in if needs be. So how loud is it? Well, it's not a quiet case. There is a good hum from it, but you're going to. It's got 4 fans in there. It's also got a mesh front on it, so all the sound can come straight out. But then again, you're going to get that for any machine which has got good cooling. So unless you're going to stick loads of sound dampening in there, you're not going to get it really, really quiet. But then if you do put loads of sound dampening in there, then the actual cooling ability isn't there. So you've got to find the right balance, you've got to buy the right machine for the right job. For the same example, you're not going to go and buy a big transit van to go and win the Formula One. You buy it so you can shift lots of stuff. Same with this. If you want to shift lots of air, you buy this. If you want something really quiet, you go down the route of buying something like a Be Quiet Pure Bass 500 DX or 600 or whatever. But if you're wanting something with good airflow, this looks like it could be the option for you. So in conclusion, as you can see, we've got this machine built up. I haven't put the glass side on so you can actually see inside, so you don't get any glare on the glass from the studio lights. But it does look pretty good under normal circumstances with the glass on. I'll take a few pictures with the studio lights turned down in a few minutes. But basics is, yes, it does look good. The RGB is nice, it's not over the top, and you also have the option of turning it off if you don't want it. You don't need a motherboard what's got an RGB controller built into it. You can use the controller what's built into the case instead. Or you could use both if you have that option. It's pretty easy to do. It's as simple as, on the top, if you want to change between the different RGB profiles, you just press the button on the front, and this goes through the pre-set up ones what come with the case. So as you can see, you can have everything from disco to cycling and whatever. So you've got lots of different options. If you hold it down for about 3 seconds and then let go, it will then go to the motherboard controller. So basically whatever you set your software within Windows as, it will then change the colours to that. At this moment I've got it set as red, so hence it's changed the colours to red. Hold the button down for about 6 seconds, you'll find the lights go completely off. And obviously you've got the advantage then, no RGB. Obviously we do have 1 or 2 lights still on, because I'll need to turn those off in the software on the motherboard, because the memory is not controlled through the case and so forth. But again, you want to go back to RGB mode, just press the button once on top and it goes straight back to your all singing and dancing Las Vegas lights. The case does have a few little niggly negatives, not huge ones, but niggly little things. For example, the back sheet, or how it's made, where your I/O panels go and stuff, is a little bit flimsy. So when you're putting graphics cards in and stuff like that, or popping out the metal plates, it can bend the case slightly. So it could make it messy, but then again, once you've got it done, it's generally going to be hiding out of the way, so you're not going to see it anyway. If you're going to be putting a full-size motherboard in there, generally you're going to need 9 risers in there. The case already has 4 risers on the back side, and it comes with another 4 in the bag what comes with it, so you're missing one. So for example, this board, full size, needs 9 screws, 9 risers, but there's only 8 available with it, so you will need to possibly go out and buy yourself another one, otherwise you're going to be missing a riser. May not make a huge deal, but again, if you want it done properly, you may need an extra riser, which you may have laying around off an old machine anyway. On top of that, I found that this front bar down here, it's like the feet, what it stands on, that is very bendy. So whatever you do, do not lift the machine up with that one on the bottom, because it bends, and I can see that breaking very easily, especially when you've got all the weight of your components in your machine when you're moving it. The control panel on top is good, not a problem with it. Would like it moved probably another ½ an inch or an inch further forward if possible, because if you put in a water cooler in, for example like the one from AeroCool, which has got the actual pump built into the radiator, it's just a little bit too long. For example, I would have liked it where these pipes were coming up here, but the way the screw holes and everything's mounted, I couldn't do, because the control panel would have been slightly in the way, which may be more to do with that specific water cooler than the actual case, but a little bit more room there would have helped. But saying that, that's really the only negatives I can see about it, and they're not really huge things either. It's very nice. You can't even really tell there's a water cooler up here because it's hidden away. It doesn't get in the way of that motherboard at all. The motherboard is a pretty large motherboard in here, so it's pretty much as big as you're going to get, and it fits in fine. The water cooler doesn't obstruct anything, and the graphics cards fits in fine. You do have the option of adding a bigger water cooler along the front if you wish. So in all honesty, it's a very, very nice case, and I'm actually surprised at what you actually get for the price.